Fenstermacher. Thanks for joining me today. I'm here today with Chelsea, and she's going to tell us about her journey in astronomy thus far, being a student and being a woman, and her experiences with that. So thanks for joining me today. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Hi, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here and chat with you and kind of give my experience. Hopefully, it can maybe give other people encouragement and kind of give just a different perspective that maybe others have not considered. So, um, yeah, I'm a non-traditional adult learner. I am also a mom of three young kids, and right now, part-time student. Hopefully, in the future, I'll be a full-time student. But right now, with little kiddos, it's kind of difficult to do the full-time schooling right now. Um, my background. So right out of high school, I started in college, university. I did 1 year of traditional 4 year, freshman year, entry level, beginning, and realized I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So I switched to community college. And then I was working at the same time, like a lot of young kids are. And I wound up getting my associate's degree in criminal justice. At that point, I kind of thought maybe I'd want to go into law enforcement, or eventually law school. And that was kind of the route I took. But life happened, um, just like it does for so many of us. So it was years before I finished my degree, my bachelor's. Um, and I wound up doing that. And as I finished that, about 10 years later, my then fiance, now husband, went into the military, went active duty Air Force. And so when I finished my degree, my bachelor's from Arizona State University, it was in political science. And then I became a military spouse for 12 years, which was just a journey in and of itself. So he just a couple years ago transitioned out, and at that time of him kind of trying to navigate his transition out of the military, it was kind of my turn to navigate that my own transition out of that, and out of that world, and kind of our scenario of moving every couple years, which was, I think we did 7 moves in 10 years. And with that, it's really hard to oftentimes find your own identity or find and keep up with your own career. So I did a lot of customer service kind of work. I did student teaching, long-term subbing, things like that, in schools where we were based. And then we had kids. And so I became a stay-at-home mom for the latter half of that. So I'm kind of just now on my own journey to find, and to kind of work my way through my career and restarting, going back to school, and kind of just navigating that now that he's out.
Awesome. I'm so excited for you. It's never too late to go back and follow your passion, and I'm so happy that you get that chance now. So
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, is that you never know where life is going to take you, and you never know what dreams you may have had when you were younger, or things that you really enjoyed may pop back up as maybe back then they didn't seem realistic, but you never know. I mean, life is a crazy journey. So
yeah, I can totally relate. I'm an adult learner myself and decided to go back to school at 33 to finish my degree. So the world has changed a lot since when we were 18, 19 as well. So I'm
it
so happy we
has.
both found our passions in space. And
Yeah,
speaking of space,
absolutely.
what inspired you to choose astronomy in the first place?
You know, I it's funny because I've always liked science. And I feel like growing up, back in the 90s, early 2000s, there was very much kind of this idea of that you were either good at like English and history, you liked to
Mhm.
read, and you liked to write, you could write really well, or you were really good at math and science. And when you met with your career counselors, in high school, they kind of, okay, what career path do you want to go? Let's take these tests and figure out what suits your personality. And those are great. But it also, I think, because I was I loved science. I've always had a passion for learning and studying um and just kind of trying to figure things out. But I never felt that I was good enough, I guess, to kind of go into that realm. And so I went more of the social sciences kind of aspect because that was, I felt like at that point where my strengths were. Um, but I do remember when I was a kid, I grew up in upstate New York, like really rural upstate New York, kind of by the Canadian border. And we lived in this old farmhouse, and we were, the nearest neighbor was like a mile down the road. And part of what I just very vividly remember as a kid was my dad would take tarps and lay them out on the fields, like overlooking the hills, and we would just sit out there because it was so dark. You could see all the stars. You could see so many stars. And so we would sit out there and look for shooting stars. And then I remember also my uncle, when Hale-Bopp was around, my uncle had a telescope, and I think I was 7 or 8 at that time, and he had a telescope, and he'd get it out and we would look at Hale-Bopp. And so maybe I was like 9. But it was just one of those things that one of those core memories
It
that,
sticks with you.
that sticks with you. And I don't know, I've always loved science, but I just never felt that I was good enough at it. And so I think the other part of that is that I grew up in kind of a more conservative community, and um, in that community, it was often really hard to reconcile, faith and beliefs with
Mhm.
science. It always seemed kind of juxtaposed and at odds with one another, and I never really found anyone or found a community to kind of help navigate or reconcile that until I became an adult. And then it was, then you learn to kind of start looking outside the box, and realizing that it's okay to ask questions. Even if you have faith, it's okay to ask questions and to kind of delve through that.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was something I had listened to a few scientists that actually a couple of astrophysicists and a couple of organizations that were faith-based, but also believed that faith and science worked together. And then that was kind of my jumping point of being like, you know what? Hey, it's okay to have faith and science work together. And that's something I'm still kind of, personally working through and trying to navigate what that looks like for myself. But it doesn't have to be at odds with one another. And that was kind of, as my husband started to transition out of the military, and I happened to just take for fun. I took an astronomy course online because I've always loved it, and I'd taken them before. I took astronomy was my science of choice for my freshman year of college way back when. Um, but it had been 20 years, and so I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it for fun. Like, let's figure it out, see where kind of direction I want to go. And then at that point, I was kind of hooked. And after a lot of talking through and a lot of encouragement with my husband and others around me that said, because I was really apprehensive about the math and the the coding and the technology aspect of it, stuff that was just completely foreign to me. And so that, with that encouragement, it just kind of came along and doors have opened, and here I am with you today, chatting with you.
That's what a wonderful journey. I came from
Thanks.
I went to Catholic school from first through 12th grade, so I totally understand and relate to that juxtaposition and searching for that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so what
And
are
it makes
your,
it hard. It
yeah,
makes it hard, when you're not sure if what you're questioning or what you want answers to, on a kind of more of a deeper level,
mhm,
when you don't have those answers or the ability to find out those answers.
mhm,
But it's that journey of
yeah.
saying, okay, it's
So
okay to ask questions.
what are your aspirations? What do you see yourself doing with astronomy?
I'm still kind of on that journey. It's going, I get asked by family members, "Oh, how much more school do you have?" And all I can say is I have a lot of school left. It's going to take me a long time. It's kind of I'm trying not to put a time frame on where I have ideas and dreams, but I don't necessarily have, in 5 years, this is what I want to be doing. Because as a mom and as a wife and having family, my husband travels for work, and so that I'm often kind of the sole caretaker for our kids. Um, there are times where I kind of have to be fully immersed on the family side, and kind of have to take a back burner to what I'm working on. Um, and so I eventually, I would love to get a doctorate someday. I think I'm not quite sure in what I want to study astrophysics, I believe, but I'm not kind of sure what area or avenue yet that I'm interested in. I think I'm kind of feeling that out still, and kind of dipping my toes in different areas of study and research that will give me some ideas of what I like and what I don't like, or where I kind of want to navigate
Mm-hmm.
towards. So yeah, ultimately, it's funny, I think about Brian May, uh the musician who, went back to school like 50 years later, and
Yeah.
finished his PhD. And so it might take me 50 years to finish my PhD, but I'll get there eventually. So
It's for you and no one
it
else.
is.
So it doesn't
Exactly.
matter how long it takes.
Exactly.
What about astronomy excites you?
Oh, it's just, there's so much. It's so much unknown, I think, is what is really, there's such a vast amount of information that we've learned over the last, 100 years, but there's so much that is still so unknown. And um it's kind of like a never ending path of learning. And I don't know, there's just it's just such a cool realm to study. There's, things that people don't understand. Like, even as scientists, there's things that they don't understand. But getting to share that, as my kids, when we take walks at night or we go stargazing, and my kiddos get to look up and have those same experiences that I had as a kid, looking at the stars and looking for, shooting stars, or watching the moon, and looking at, the different topography of the moon, and
Hmm.
just getting to share those experiences with my kids, I think is just such a cool thing as a mom. Um, but I think also seeing women in STEM come up into STEM fields is a really cool, and it's just such a impactful uh, position to be in, I think, on a personal level, but also knowing that I get to be a part of a group of women that in this era are coming up and doing absolutely incredible and amazing things, and
Hmm.
contributing. And so I don't know. There's so many amazing things about astronomy that, you know,
Overwhelming.
it is. It's really hard, especially so early on in my studies and my journey. It's really hard to kind of pick and choose. Um, but I think that just the vastness, it's such
Hmm.
the vastness of our universe, and uh it really kind of, on a more philosophical level, kind of gets you down to like, where who are we as humans, and what's our purpose, and then how do
Hmm.
we, I don't know. Yeah, there's so much. There's, the philosophical part, and then
Hmm.
the scientific research, and that's just never ending, and always going to be making strides in different
Yeah.
areas.
The philosophical part is what drew me to wanting to work within space as a sociologist in the first place, where, what is this reality? And my favorite question is, how do you create something out of nothing, and how could nothing ever exist? That one I'm waiting for someone to tell me the answer to.
It seems like that's kind of the question, right? I mean, it's hard to fathom that, yeah, it's hard to fathom like where we all came from, what the universe came from, and then yeah,
Hmm.
where it
It's amazing.
started. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's interesting too, is that, you know, in science is an ever changing, it's not a stagnant or a static um, study. It's meant to be changing. You're always meant to be moving forward and learning and growing off of what you know or what you thought you knew, and testing to make sure that what you think you knew is correct. Or and it's that
Endless.
willingness. Yeah, it's that willingness to move forward and to constantly come up with new ideas. And
Hmm. I'm really excited for you in your future path, whatever direction it goes. I'm
oh,
gonna
thank
be
you.
I'm gonna be
You too.
waiting in the
I'm
sidelines
excited.
listening. Thank you. But so what are you currently working on? Are you taking classes this summer? What are you
Not
up
this
to?
summer. We're kind of, my family's in transition right now. My husband, like I said, works, he travels for work. And so we're in transition right now, to hopefully our forever, at least for the near future. And so for our home. And so I kind of took a little bit of break from classes. But I've been really excited to, I just started actually my astronomy professor from my school back in Arizona, which is where I was taking classes in the community college there in Maricopa Community College system. Um, he had attended a seminar or a like a symposium seminar conference at the beginning of the summer at Chapel Hill, you with I think NRAO, I think, was kind of hosting it, but with radio telescopes and
Mm,
education in classrooms, or how to use astronomy in the classrooms. Um, and so that's something that once we get settled in the next couple weeks, I'm gonna kind of jump back into that. Last semester we had done some, I'd done some telescopes, or taking images, radio images, with a 20-meter telescope out at Green Bank Observatory. And so we had kind of been working on some coding, trying to look at the spectra of, I had imaged Andromeda. And so I had kind of been working on that and then took a little break. And so hopefully at the end of the summer, as we kind of get settled a little bit more, I'll be able to jump back into working on my images that I took last semester. Um, and then I also, he had told me about NASA has a community of citizen scientists that do exoplanet research called Exoplanet Watch. So I actually just joined their group maybe a couple weeks ago.
oh,
Um,
exciting.
yeah, so it's really cool. It's you know, there's so many opportunities for even citizens who are interested in science but don't necessarily want to jump into it as a full-time career, but want to have, you know, a little bit of contribution. There's opportunities for people to just kind of get involved. And so I started that, and then we'll see. There's a couple other projects that I'm hoping to kind of jump into, doing some vetting, maybe with test research, the test data, looking for exoplanets. So we'll see. Just kind of trying to work on some of those projects while I can in my free time. And then hopefully in the fall, I'll start getting back into the math. I started over when I went back to school because I hadn't done math and sciences in 20
Mm,
years.
I had to do the
And
same thing.
so I started all over and started, you know, I literally from, I think it was like high school algebra, and then slowly started working my way up. And so I've
Mhm.
got to just start jumping into, you know, the calc 1, 2, 3, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is is jumping into the math. A little nervous about it. I'm a little apprehensive, but we'll get there.
You're gonna do great. Just take it slow. Some of the best mathematicians are the ones that take the longest to do it. So,
Hmm. And
there's
you know, and that's the biggest thing I think I've learned, is that it just takes practice. You know, I
Mhm.
think that's one of those ideas that it's kind of science is this exclusive community of geniuses. And absolutely, there are people that are absolute rock stars and geniuses, and um, but there are people that, just work really hard and may not do well in school and just keep going and fail classes, and they're not straight A students, and you just keep pressing forward, and it's just a lot of practice and humility, and keep on
Hmm.
going, keep on chugging,
Yeah,
chugging along.
practice and passion.
Yep, exactly.
What advice would you give to someone considering a trajectory similar to yours?
To not be afraid. I think don't doubt yourself. It's funny, I'm always having these conversations with my kids, that, you know, when they complain or say, I can't do this, mommy. We have an 8-year-old and 5-year-old twins, and they're kind of in that learning phase of doing things on their own and figuring out what they're capable of. And we're always telling them, I believe in you. I believe you can do difficult things and hard things. Um, but I have to remember that I need to lead by example with that. And that means knowing and believing in myself that I can do difficult things too. So when they see that mom can do difficult things, that gives them encouragement and the courage to say, okay, mom can do it, I can do it. Um, so I think not being afraid to jump in and know that you're not going to know everything. It's going to take, you'll never know everything. In science, again, it's always changing and
Mhm.
you will never know everything. Um, and I think that was something that I was apprehensive about, was not being good enough or not knowing enough, to kind of find my footing or find my place. And I think another aspect of that is knowing how to advocate for yourself. Um, and I think that comes with life experience, and which is why, honestly, now that I'm older and kind of on this journey as an adult and someone who has gone through different phases of life, and that's something that I think I can really appreciate, maybe in comparison to some of my younger peers and colleagues,
Mhm.
who are in the same kind of position, just starting off, but maybe are much younger and haven't had the same kind of life experiences that I've had, is learning how to advocate for yourself and that it is okay to advocate. Um, and also know your limits as well, knowing that, like this summer, I was thinking about taking a math class, and my husband said, we've got a lot going on. You might maybe think about that because we want to make sure you're taking advantage of, that you're actually focused on it and learning. And so knowing when to kind of set your boundaries. And again, that's something that I'm always trying to teach my kids or remind my kids is, it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to know, um, what your own limits are. And then again, don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. If you need something or if you have questions, or um, even just reaching out to professors. One of the big things that, I've kind of learned in just watching or reading about other people in similar science fields is, uh, and my own experiences, is not being afraid to jump at an opportunity that you may not think you're worthy of having or that you don't have the experience to do, um, because you are going to learn something, even if it's not what you thought. Um, you never know if you one will have that opportunity again, but you might just be the perfect person for that opportunity in that time. And that's something, that was kind of something that I wasn't quite sure about doing, when I first started, my classes. That was something I was really apprehensive about, saying, in the back of my mind, and I would even talk to my astronomy professor about it and say, I'm too old to do this. I don't belong in this young group of kids that are, doing all these amazing things. Um, but for example, NASA has a program that, um, it's called the NCAS, and it's for community students, community college students who are interested in STEM and math. And it's a 3 mission kind of scenario where um, the first mission was where we learned about all of the history of NASA and We had to kind of study all the directorates and their purposes and the centers. And then the second mission was getting to work virtually with a team and
Hmm.
come up with a moon rover. Our project is coming up with a rover for, moon or lunar reconnaissance. And but that was a phenomenal opportunity because we got to sit in and work with JPL engineers and NASA engineers, virtually. And then Mission 3, I don't know if they're still doing it in person anymore, but when I did it last summer, if you got selected for Mission 3, you actually spent a week at a NASA site working and learning alongside aeronautics. Yeah, at least our team I was at Armstrong at Edwards Air Force Base, but um it was, coming up with a project and then presenting in front of NASA engineers your ideas. And so when I first when we were kind of introduced the idea of it to our astronomy class, a year, 2 years ago, I want to say, I was really apprehensive about it. And I said, this is for the younger kids, like let them go have the opportunities. But then after talking to, my husband and my professors and some of my peers, they said, you know what, you're just as much a student as everyone else. And don't forget, like, advocate for yourself. If you don't jump at these opportunities aren't going to just come to you. You need to
Yeah.
jump at them. And so I think, just not being afraid to try things that you might not necessarily give yourself credit for or might be nervous to do. It's
Yeah.
just go for it.
We all deserve these experiences at
Hmm.
any age, at any time in our lives. So that's great. I'm so happy that you had the courage to reach out for it and grab it. Um, did
Yeah,
you?
and it's one of those things that uh it's not just, in your studies, but it kind of teaches you how to advocate in other aspects of your life. And,
Yeah.
as a parent, we're always advocating for our kids, and it teaches you how to just have the strength to kind of do that, in different areas of your life.
Hmm. And it also, you know, you become a really great role model for your kids through
Hmm.
advocating for yourself as well.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
did you receive any mentorship yourself along your path? And if so, what would you say is the most important guidance that you've garnered?
You know, it, yeah, I have. I've actually had a couple of amazing professors that I'm so thankful for. Um, and it, it was with my astronomy classes, Dr. Kevin Healy and Dr. Melissa Bunte at um, Mesa Community College. If anyone's going to Maricopa County Community Schools, I would absolutely, hands down, recommend either of them. Um, and then one of my math professors, Dr. Professor Sylvia Llamas Flores at Chandler Gilbert, she was just, I was very apprehensive about the math. And um, I went in kind of saying, I don't know if I can do this. And I actually wound up taking her for 2 semesters because she was so great and just so encouraging. And so, having those professors, at least for me, that was a huge part of having people that are willing to teach you and find your value in what you can share, even if you're just at the beginning of your journey. Dr. Healy has been an amazing mentor in giving me chances and opportunities to kind of throw out ideas of, hey, what do you think about me doing this project or researching this aspect? Even if it's not his specialty, he's kind of along for the ride. He's been along for the ride and said, hey, you know what? Yeah, absolutely. If I'm here, if you have questions. And um, so yeah, I think it's given me the opportunity again to find kind of my place and develop that confidence, um, and having people that are willing to find and invest their time and their energy into you as a person. And also understanding, for me as a mom, knowing that my priority are my kids and my family, and that sometimes that has to come first. A lot of times that has to come first. Finding those mentors and those people that are in the field who are willing and to understand and to work with you is really important, because if they don't understand where you're at,
Hmm.
um, then it's not going to work. That cohesion of learning from each other, because they're learning from us just as much as we're learning from them. People that have been in the field a really long time, and so having that cohesiveness and that understanding was imperative, was really important for me from the get-go.
Hmm.
Um, and that was something, that Dr. Healy, went the first time I took his class, I emailed him and I said, "Hey, professor, again, advocating for yourself, I asked about the hours of how, did the lab go longer than the times that were, slotted for in the daily schedules for in the syllabus and things like that, because I had to pick up my daughter from
Hmm.
school, and it was a half-hour drive. And so it just having that understanding from the professors was really imperative. And then that support as an adult learner, um, understanding that you bring a different view and perspective, was just really, really important. And I'm so thankful. It's giving me such amazing opportunities just to kind of find my own footing and interests that may not necessarily just be in the syllabus for the class, kind of giving me that opportunity to push outside the box a little bit.
It's awesome. Hats off to your professors for being
Yeah.
so progressive and on top of it, and role models for the rest of the astronomical community. That's really
Yeah,
wonderful to
absolutely.
hear. Um, what, if any, changes would you like to see for women in astronomy?
I think in education and academia as a whole, um, understanding that, that we're not all in the same seasons of life. I think a lot of someone like myself who is starting into this career late, my kids are still little. And so my ability to focus on maybe on only on my schooling is not something that I'm able to do. It's a balance. It's finding that work-life balance. But it's also important to have people that understand that, hey, if I miss a class, or if I need to zoom in to the class because my kid is sick and I can't take them to the babysitter, or um, whatever the case is, something like that, uh, that those, not just for women, but as parents in general, that's something that I think is really important. Um, and it's kind of, it's that season of life where I'm in, and so I'm able to empathize with other parents that are in similar situations, and advocate again for those kinds of changes in academia, in the work environment, and then understanding, that single parents, oh man, hats off to single parents. I'm, when my husband travels and I'm the sole caregiver, I might be the sole caregiver for that time frame, but I still have him as my advocate, and he's in the back seat, kind of, helping me out. And when he comes home, then, it's just we're a team again, and it just continues. But those single parents out there, I don't know, I have so much respect and so much uh, appreciation for their ability to do what they do, and sacrifice the way that they do. So I think having that understanding, for those single parents is a really important thing, um, and giving them the same kinds of opportunities. The I think there's been a lot of really good changes for women, but it's, at the same time, there's always more that can be done. I think about this one time I was listening to it was like a Zoom call that had been on YouTube, and it was one of the academic societies out there that was doing a talk on something, and I don't remember the specifics of it, but I remember I had to pause it because one of the kids came in, and when I paused it, the screen, it was on a Zoom, and so they had different blocks of faces, and there's probably 20 or 30 people on the blocks, their pictures were up there, and it was all older white men that were on the screen. And I'd had those discussions, with my professors previously, in at different times, just about how the changes that have happened over the years, things like the double blind board selections for telescope time and things like that. And but it was like one of those cemented moments of like, oh my goodness, okay, it really is a thing where
Mhm.
it it's older white men that kind of encompass, much of science and much of the research opportunities. And so just I find it really encouraging to see other women that are in STEM fields, just to kind of give them the voice that they're garnering that courage to step up and step out and say, hey, you know, and just people of different backgrounds and cultures and ethnicities and races and genders and sexes and religions. And it's just really important, all of those,
Mhm.
to have all of that in the realms of science, to to represent the people that are in the community, and give them voices and opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And to bring more people into the community too, so they know that they have allies and it's not just, you're sticking out in that on that Zoom call as the one woman.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of media, so what is your favorite TV show or movie?
Ooh. We don't watch a ton of TV. When we do, it's always kind of like, we love, my family, my kids included, love Expedition Unknown.
I
Um,
love that
it's
show.
I know it's so, it's I love like the that he goes to all these different places. My husband and I've had a really good chance to travel the world and have a lot of different experiences and see a lot of different cultures and things. And so I love getting to see where when he goes to all these different places. And um,
Mhm.
my daughter loves the history aspect of it, especially like the Egyptian. When he goes to the tombs and the pyramids and all that kind of stuff. So we watch a lot of that kind of stuff.
Fun.
Even it might be kind of cheesy, but it's fun. And then as a kid, this probably should have been a precursor for, like a hint, like, hey, come on, this is what you're gonna do eventually. But I remember as a kid watching Contact with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey and being like, this is the best movie ever.
Another
And
one of my interviewees said the same thing. So we have two
and
for
it's,
contact now.
oh my gosh. Well, it should have. I loved the fact that they went, there's Arecibo and the VLA in it, and just and I've actually gotten to see both of those. I got to go see Arecibo before it collapsed, and to see the amazing technology that it was. It's just really cool. It was one of those like, oh, I've been here. Like those are the two places that I've always wanted to go, and and have that recollection of being like, oh, Jodie Foster and they're Matthew McConaughey are at these places, and then I think, I mean, now, over the last probably, when it came out, Interstellar with, that's another, you know, more modern classic. I think it was just such a great movie, and the soundtrack was amazing, with Hans Zimmer, and
Hmm.
just, yeah, such a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
Um,
the soundtrack to that is incredible. I put it on Spotify sometimes. It's
I
so
do too.
wonderful.
It is. And, it's funny because some people say they have to study in like complete silence, and some people have to have like a TV show going on. I listen to music to either like piano music or classical, but I have to have some
Mhm.
sort of like instrumentation or instrumental music going on in the background.
We'll have
Hans Zimmer
to
is like,
share Spotify lists because
yeah,
I do the same thing.
helps me focus.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I love a good swelling soundtrack score.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
type this paper.
It does. It does. It keeps me focused.
Uh, your cat has been joining us this entire interview, and it's been just a
Oh,
pleasure.
Oliver.
I feel like I
Yeah,
should ask a question.
he's just having fun enjoying the sun.
I love it. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we get off our interview today?
I don't think so. I just, I appreciate, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. And um, I just hope that it may be, even though I'm very early on in my journey, in my career and aspirations, I just hope that it kind of helps other people that might be apprehensive like I was to jump into something that they might not think that they're capable of doing because again, like I tell my kids, we are capable of doing difficult things. And it's, just it's just learning to take the good with the bad and know that it's going to be hard. But that as more of us jump into these positions, especially as a woman and as a mom, and I just hope that, those of us that are out there and in these spots and in these places can use our voices to kind of bring others along with us and encourage other women and other people that are in different seasons of their lives who might be hesitant to do it, to just say, you know what, we only have one life, at least I think we do. I don't know, who knows. But, just just do it. And,
Yeah.
you can always, if you don't love it, then you can always change, but you'll always have that kind of notion in the back of your brain that says, oh, I don't know, maybe I should have done it if you don't. And so
Hmm.
there are more of us out there than you think, um, who are kind of going along this journey too and paving the way. There's people that have gone, women that have gone before us and women that will come up behind us. And so it's a great, it's a great feeling to be a part of that community. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this. I'm feel inspired. I'm about ready to go down to community college and get myself some astronomy classes.
well, that's the thing, like don't that's the one thing I will say is that I think there's this kind of, sometimes there's a notion that you have to go big and you have to start off at the 4 year, or you have to go to these huge name schools, which of course there's benefits to both. Um, but that's not always the case. That's not always the reality for a lot of people. And I would never discount like community colleges for anyone. There's several astronomers and astrophysicists or PhD candidates that I follow on social media that have kind of had that same route of starting off at community school. And for a lot of people, that's they don't have the option of going to a 4 year. And again, like my journey has, I went to community and then 4 year and now back at community. And there is such value in community colleges. And I think, when you asked about, that's probably something I should have mentioned in academia, what would you change, is that I would love to see that, the community colleges get more support for undergrad research and undergrad opportunities, and as being a gateway to these bigger universities that a lot of people don't always have access to right out the gate. So that's,
Yeah.
don't underestimate community college, because there's a lot of professors that are willing and wanting to share their time and their resources, and give students opportunities that they might not have otherwise.
Absolutely. Community college is a wonderful step. I did it myself.
Mhm.
And the professors tend to have more time to work
Mhm.
with you. And so if there's anybody watching this that feels hesitant about taking that first step, that's a really great place to start. So
Mhm. Absolutely. And they have connections too, they've gone through the whole gamut of classes and degrees and experiences as well. And so that's a great way to just get started. And if you're not sure about it and you're not sure that this is something, whatever it is that you're studying is something that you want to do for the long term, that's a great way to kind of jump in and test out the waters first and see what resources are out there and then decide from there.
Awesome. Well, as I said, you're amazing. Thank you so
Oh, you
much.
are too. Thank you for doing this. I'm so excited to hear, all the different interviews and read everyone's experiences and connect with other people. So thank you for doing this. This is amazing.
Absolutely. I will make sure to stay in touch with you and find out where you've landed on your journey. I'll
Same
talk to
here.
you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.